Good morning, good afternoon, fellow survivors, and welcome to Vandeanson's Apocalypse. Finally, I have time again to record a video, and I figured let's have a run through the settings. I think it's a mod with a lot of settings. You can customize it quite a bit, which is nice, but I guess it's also a little bit overwhelming, so I'll try to showcase how I think the mod can be set up. And then we're going over a few updates. Just wanted to showcase in what direction the site spawner goes, and maybe you can look into the updated bleeding system a little bit. Yeah, let's see. I have no script prepared. It's just the things that I wanted to talk about and showcase. So let's get into it. First, you need to be subscribed to the mod on the Steam Workshop, and you also require CBA Armor Free for that. Once you have subscribed and downloaded the mod, it's not that big. It's as you can see, 0.6, and then we're good to go. So you open Arma, you get into the launcher, and you just select whatever mod you want to play. Obviously, I have CBA Armor Free installed, and the Vandeanson Apocalypse mod. This is just my local copy right now. It's not the official one. This would be version 2.14. Yeah, 1.4. And currently uploaded is 2.09, just because I had to re-upload the last stable version after 13 and 12 had some issues, mainly with the site spawner. I mean, obviously, when you test a mod the first time, don't do that. Don't activate like 10 mods. Just go with the core mods you want to test. In that case, CBA and Vandeanson's Apocalypse, and maybe a gear mod. So I'll keep that in because I want to showcase some stuff, how I like to set up my mission. We're gonna play on Generous Redukes, well, whatever. And good. So you set up. Let's start. I've completely replaced my PC and still didn't manage to switch my system from German to English again. But then again, doesn't matter. I'm not going to put in any music because I recently did that with something that I thought was license-free or royalty-free music. Apparently it wasn't. I had a couple of messages from YouTube, and in the end I was asked to remove sound, so I'm not going to risk that. I've probably made about 10 half an hour plus tutorial videos, and due to my lack of experience with that, I think most of them don't have any sound, so I was brabbeling for about half an hour and nothing of that is on the video. So let's hope this is not happening today. Okay, so this is the first thing. So one way to use VA, Vandeanson's Apocalypse, is to create your own mission and include VA from the start. You can also just let it run with the default settings with a existing scenario or mission that you downloaded or did earlier. So PBO'd mission, but we want to customize it a little bit. So we go into the editor. In my case, I want to play on Generous Redukes. Arma is now installed on an SSD, and damn it, it's much faster than before to load in. I have no, actually, let's start from scratch. That's boring. I'll load my preset. This is just basically my Ravage setup. I do like to combine it with Ravage. I recommend it to you as well. So what we have is the Ravage module setup. That's a separate topic. I'm not going into it, but interesting for the mod is mainly the zombies, because the zombies can infect the players, which is one of the features of the mod. So that's important. I've placed the player. Now for you, if you're not that familiar with editor, there are a lot of YouTube videos out there. I'm not going into detail into that. I just want to mention, if you use the mod the first time, you should probably spend some time in editor and playtesting, and also, you know, just get to know how the mod works, how the performance is affected. So what you should do is place a Game Master module. You see that under F5, Zeus, Game Master. You place it. In that case, I've already placed it, and you set your name as owner. I usually change it to all add-ons. It's by default on official add-ons. I don't know if that really does much, but and then I give my playable character same name. You can also link it group to like this, but in my experience that doesn't work in multiplayer. So just give it an owner name, link it to the variable name of your character. Right, so this is all we need to use VA with Ravage. If you don't want to use Ravage, you know, you don't need those modules, but why would you not use Ravage, right? Good, so next we're going to look into the VA settings. Now, first thing, important, sorry, let's do that slow again. You go to settings, add-on options, then you go into you come into the CBA armor-free interface with all your CBA supported mods or based mods. And here we have a list of VA options. So before you do anything, you have a server tab, a mission tab, and a client tab. What you need to do is you need to work in every scenario. You need to work in the server tab, not in the mission tab. This is in order for you to play. If you release a mission and you don't want people to change anything during gameplay, there's another way that I will show you, but here, if you host an online game with others, you should work on the server bit. You'll be able to override the mission settings and the client settings, so no user can override these settings. Just as a general rule, when you're on mission, do not click override clients. Go to server, tick override mission and override clients, and you see then here the green check mark tells you that the server settings are being used. Here, the mission settings that are mission based, they're not used. So just red, not good. Green, good. Why do not click override client here? Because it will, I'm not sure. In some cases I've seen that if you play single player, the server is considered as a client and the mission might override the server settings. So in my understanding, to have it right in all situations, do not click override clients and mission, just work on the server tab and override both settings. Not sure if there's a way to apply that by default, but usually you'll just have to do it once. Oh, you can just tick here, okay. So yeah, it's a little boring to do, but yeah, that's how it is. Oh damn, you know what, you see how it's done. I go for the lazy way. What I did now is I load a preset, so you can set up your VA settings. Oh shit, sorry, I was in ASR 1 armor free, sorry, stupid. Okay, I was confused. So we're in the VA settings now. Apologies for that. Okay. Yeah. I think in your case, alright, that in this case here it was ticked and it would not cause an issue because it would still accept the server settings. I don't know, I probably have not fully understood it yet, but untick this under the mission tab, the override clients, and tick both override settings and server. And yeah, when you have changed something from the default setting, it will pop up yellow. Make sure it's always the green ticker under the server tab, and then you can go through the settings. Let's start with general, because okay, see here, for example, you want to make sure your server settings are green. As I said, like, first time you use VA, you probably should take some time to just play around and watch how the mission is going. Hence we have placed the Zeus Game Master module, so you can press that and go into Game Master to see what's going on. In order to see what's going on, you also need two more settings. You need to check the enable debug markers. It's not only markers, it's also other information that I'm continuously adding, but it basically gives you information. Most importantly, it shows you the placed sites and its radius. And you can see how the sites are spread. Is it too much? Is it too less? Do you need more distance between each sites? And based on that, you can then decide how to change your settings. And then add spawn content to Zeus. This is important because else you will not see all assets, all curators, they call it, that are spawned in. So everything that is not terrain will be shown if you add it to Zeus with this method. In a testing environment, you want the refresh rate to be quick. So every 13 seconds, it will collect all the assets that are spawned and will show them to you. I'll showcase that later. Notice, however, if you have only a 5-second delay or below, anything below 10 you will notice that in the performance. So it will lag or stutter a little bit. So consider that when testing. It's nice to have it at 5 seconds because you can immediately see if something is spawning or is not spawning and where it's spawning, but it's not something that you would use in gameplay. So in gameplay I would actually usually turn it off unless you plan to play Zeus. And if you plan to play Zeus, go 30 seconds. 30 seconds should be enough. Maybe 15 seconds, but anything below 15 or 10 seconds I do not recommend, sorry. English hard. We go for 10 seconds. Good. Then you can go through the settings. These are the general settings that apply to everything, all the site spawners and whatever. And I'll try to add as much explanation as possible. I have not added an explanation, like a tooltip like that, to all the settings because it's just so really freaking boring to do. And yeah, if I ever have nothing else to do on VA and it's perfect, then I'll do it, not before. And else just, in between whenever I update something. You can set the minimum distance that any site should have to the player. So for immersion's sake, you should have that at some distance. This is a distance in meters that is similar or even further than your view distance, because you do not want to be able to see sites pop up in front of you. Then max distance to player, just the max radius. Actually, this is no longer needed, but I get to that. So old system, this was needed to set how far away sites can spawn. This will be changed and I will explain why. Minimum update time and additional maximum random uptime is basically at some point sites will despawn. We'll explain what scenario that is and when it will happen. And you can set how long it should stay up for the minimum and add an additional uptime. So it gives it some variety. So for sure, maybe, I don't know, a few minutes the site will be up, and then an additional counter starts that is randomized, so it's not predictable when stuff respawns. And then the site would despawn and spawn new. can also set the maximum distance or the minimum distance needed. So if a site is about to despawn, and you're still standing next to it, the despawn is paused, and it waits until you're 772 meters away from the center of the site before it despawns. This is also just to make sure you don't see stuff disappear in front of you. Set it to something that's reasonable for you. If your view distance is only 1000, you don't need 5000. Okay. Land sites and coastal sites, general stuff can be blacklisted. So you can place a area marker, name it, and enter the marker here. Marker 1, marker 2. Place the markers on the map, and no land-based sites will spawn in that area, and you will not respawn in that area, and you will also, no AI will spawn in that area. Maybe, for whatever reason you have a safe zone here, and then you want to, add a sort of say, so no sites spawn here, or no AI, and you cannot spawn in there if you respawn. Blah 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 blah. You name it, marker 1. You can also turn down the alpha so you don't see it that well. Marker 1. Go back to the settings. Make sure to go back to the server. And here you can enter, marker 1. I hope you know what I mean. This was also used for the placement markers in the old system. I'll get to that, but there was a danger that sites would spawn out here. This is not going to happen in the future because I changed how the sites will spawn. Back to settings, back to server. Good. Then there's something that's the same for coast, like for shipwrecks or boats. You can blacklist coastal areas where that stuff should not spawn. Why is this stupid? Okay, chance for point of interest markers. This is basically, if you use the Ravage mod, there are document folders that are used for putting fires, creating fires. That's just an additional incentive for, I don't know, something that probably will spice up your game. If you know, nice, a document folder, there might be information in it. What this does is, like, anytime you pick up one of those brown Ravage document folders, it will have a certain chance, depending on your setting here, 100 to 20, whatever, that this information or that this document contained information that places a marker of or marks one of the sites on your map. That could be bandit camps, hideouts, crash sites, just a point of interest. So, gives you a little benefit, and you can see how high you want to set the chance that this happens. It will be local to the player, so if one player finds it, he will pick up the document gets changed into another item type, so the system cannot be abused, and he will get a marker on the map that shows him what's going on and if there's a marker site. Alright, so much for the general settings. Then we just continue from top to down. AI settings. Sorry. This is just anything AI related that you can adjust. You can adjust how many animals spawn around you. There's an old feature I need to update. It's not performance optimized, and I just need to work on that. But basically, you can spawn goats and sheeps and I'm not sure what else, but animals that can be hunted and butchered with the Ravage mod for food. We don't need much. Then the gear. This is the AI equipment settings bit where you can adjust the chances for AI equipment. So basically here you set the chance that any AI gets a map, gets a rifle, how much ammo he has at least, how much he has maximum, optics, silencer chance, flashlight chance, and so on for everything. Just any kind of item type that the AI can use. Custom AI items is if you have a mod item that you want to include in the inventory or in the equipment pool of the AI. So maybe you want to add something, I don't know, a document, then enter the class name in here and add the chance that it will appear in an AI's inventory and how many. Yeah. What else? Money chance. Money by default is the Ravage money. If you do not have Ravage active, I think you can just, I don't know, either remove it or don't remove it. Turn down the setting, the chance, and if you have a different class name for money, like for itemized money, put it in here. If you use Ravage and you want to apply the Ravage equipper settings, then tick that and untick the AI equipper. This will take over your Ravage module settings as well. Then we have the DBO horses setting. This is just a spawner for DBO horses. DBO horses is awesome, so why would you not do that? It requires the mod though, so just make sure to install the DBO horses mod. Go play Apocalypse Cowboy. JB, Johnny Boy's feral dogs updated with some changes by LS Wellmont. Just select how many feral dog packs you want. These are roaming dog packs that will attack you. Quite scary. I think sound is currently not working. I might have to tweak some stuff here, but they work and they will terrorize you. They will rip your weapon away. They might make you fall, and obviously they damage you. And you can just set that. Territory is basically how far will the dogs, run around. What will they patrol? They'll always be moving. Then we have the AI patrols. AI patrols and AI stalkers, I made this because I figured, at least at one point in Ravage, if you were staying at the place for a very long time, no more new AI would spawn. I'm not sure if that's still the same today, but this was the trigger for me, where I can have an own set of AI that spawns. I can adjust their behavior. They would just patrol here, for example, and the others would directly go after you. They basically would always be stalking you, and you have once they are deleted because you're too far away, or you killed them, they will respawn according to your timer settings. Minimum set time and the minimum random time in addition. Same for stalkers. Stalker get a net action, not net action, sorry. Stalkers get a function where they would follow you. They do not get your exact position, but something, I think, 30 meters close to you. So they will be hunting you. Yeah, actually similar in the Ravage modules. Then you have the AI skills setting. Play around here. It's just all available active settings, and you can set how smart these guys should be. The AI in this mod is sometimes really buggy, so I don't know if it's just Arma or if it's my configuration. I'm about to find out. It's one of the next things I want to look into, but these are the tools that we currently have. If you notice strange behavior of AI, I know about it. I don't know why they behave like that yet, but yeah, I'm working on it. The bleeding function is one of the features to make your life hard in VA. And how hard you want it, you can adjust yourself. You can, let's skip that for now, but how high is the chance that you start bleeding if something hits you, a bullet or a zombie or fall damage. Yeah. And it should make you consider your moves a bit more careful. It should have a real impact if you get damaged or if you get hurt, and this will be a consequence. So you were not careful. You maybe ran for that heli crash site and you got hit, and now you're bleeding and you have no bandages, and now you have a problem. So this is adjustable here. Then the bandage drop chance, it can be adjusted. This is the drop chance for AI. So enemy AI may drop or have bandages in their inventory. That's the chance that happens. Depending, I mean, it really changes your gameplay. If it's 100% every AI has bandage, then bleeding is not that critical. But if it's a really low chance and you really need to scavenge and loot for bandage, then that will change the whole gameplay a little bit. Then blood bags. So bandage is used to cure the bleeding. I'll show that afterwards. Blood bags are used to fill up your blood level. The blood level is 100 and it is reduced if you're bleeding, obviously. And the blood bag can be used to fill it up to 100. Currently it just fills it up to 100, and it's available if you have less than 99 or 90 blood. The base bleeding frequency. So this is just a delay between bleeding effect. So every 132 seconds you will lose blood. This is some additional time between each blood effect, just to randomize stuff again. You can set that to 0, so it's just a fixed time. So every 100 or every 60 seconds you bleed. I'll set it to 30 because I want to showcase something afterwards. And blood gating, if you're no longer bleeding, and then you will start to gain blood. So if you do not have a blood bag, you just need some patience and be careful, and your blood will go up again. If you have the Ravage mod active, it would also check if your hunger and thirst is above 80. If it's below that, the blood gaining will not start. So you need to be more or less well fed and hydrated and not bleeding in order for the blood to gain. And I'm not sure actually, I think I also have a healing system where basically if your blood is full and your hunger is full, if you have Ravage, then your health goes up. Because this is where the disable first aid kits come in. If you tick that, any first aid kit you pick up will be transferred into a bandage, so you cannot heal yourself other than stabilizing your blood level and your hunger and thirst level for Ravage, and then your health system starts to tick up again, so you gain health slowly. Sort of DayZ-ish, or exactly like DayZ, or whatever. That was the inspiration, of course. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, health. Let me see if that actually. I'm actually just wondering if I do have a health generation system. Or if I only have a blood. Okay, I'm pretty sure I completely forgot to add a health generation system. So this is the blood gain system. It will, under some conditions, it will add blood. And the same I need to reproduce for the health. What did I just do? Oh, I hate that. Now I created a new... Stupid. Okay. Well, maybe I'll showcase that. Maybe I'll do it after the video. But I need to create a health restore system. Okay, bleeding function. I will showcase it, but basically what you do not see here is bleeding has a blur effect, a blood effect, and a faint effect. Actually, I'll showcase those. So on lower blood levels, you will feel effects of the blood loss, like I forgot what I made, like blurry vision, loss of color, so continuously every 20 blood loss, like 0 there's no correction of color, below 80 there is a first correction of color, and down then to just gray and white if you're below 20 health, sorry, blood, because that will show you how bad you're doing. Also like similar than Daisy, I guess. What will it do? It will also damage you. If you're low on blood, it will start to damage your health. And it will create a blood drop below you. There's a chance that there's a blood drop below you. Yeah. And now I added a Bisfink blood something overlay that I have not tested yet, so we will together live to test that. So, yeah. General we already covered. Then infection is the other thing that should make your life harder. It works similar. It's a zombie infection. You can compare it to Ryan zombies infection. Ryan zombies infection is, to my knowledge, not compatible with Ravage, so I made this. It will basically allow you to, if you get hit by a zombie, this is the Ravage zombie parent, you can replace that with any zombie mod, max zombies or Ryan zombies if you like. If you get hit by these zombies, there's a certain chance that you get infected. This is the chance per hit to get you infected. And here are the countermeasures or the counter items. The antivirus injector that will completely cure you. And its chance to drop from an AI that you killed. A non-zombie AI actually, because if zombies would have injectors, then they would not be zombies, I guess. And antivirus pill drop chance. Here's the base frequency. The base frequency is the time in between infection symptoms. So every time infection hits, there's a 20-second delay now in that case, and then it hits again. This frequency starts in this case at 236. So every 236 seconds you get a hit, or every 125 seconds you get a hit. And the hit is just a visual effect and I guess like wounded sounds and a damage. You take some damage. Every time this happens, this base frequency gets reduced. So the time in between hits gets reduced by, I don't know, a few percent. And that goes on. So the infection just hits you faster and faster. To counter that, you either cure yourself or you take the antivirus pills that will delay the frequency again. They will stretch the frequency. So they add a couple of seconds here to your base frequency, if you know what I mean. Ideally then, or the idea is that the injectors are rather rare and the pills are maybe a little bit less rare, so you can use them to suppress your infection. But you really, in the end, need either loads of pills or at some point an injector. Yeah. Oh, that's clear. Then we have Ludok economy. The Ludok economy is basically for it will spawn items based on the Vandeanson Apocalypse settings, gear pool settings, into buildings near the player. It's specific to per player, so every player has a spawner attached to him that will spawn loot around him depending on your settings. If the player moves out of a certain radius, the old loot will despawn and will respawn again around the new position. Let's look into that quickly first. So this is the dynamic loot spawner. This was needed in my opinion because some maps do not have furniture in houses, and Ravage works with furniture to add loot add actions, hold actions. Now with this you can add additional loot to houses where you know there's no furniture, or you just do not get Ravage loot, or replace it at all, like if you prefer this way. It will just place loot on the ground in various building positions. You can untick that or tick that. I think by default, I think it's disabled. You can set how far around the player loot should spawn. Here, it's probably best to go as small as possible, but as small as needed, but as big as possible. Because now let's say the spawner starts, it will search all the buildings in 150 meters radius. For all the buildings, it will get all the building positions and therefore loot positions. And then it will spawn loot there depending on your next settings. Okay, the first one is for every position that is found, you can set the chance that loot spawns there. I put that to below 10. Usually that was the most realistic way. Else stuff is just overcrowded with loot. If you have it at 100, like every building position will have loot. You don't want that. You want you want to keep your mission challenging, I guess. And then the same for buildings. You can adjust how big the percentage of buildings that are around you will be considered for this spawner. I put that usually on 100 because I want to have the chance that in every building there might be loot, but every position in a building has only a 6% chance that there will be loot. I made good experience with that. So loot spawns not exactly on the ground. Loot or items have LOD boxes, I think it's called. I don't know what it is really, but just some sort of hitboxes or boxes around it that make it float sometimes. So some items might spawn a little bit in the air, some on the ground. And I think it also depends on the map and on the buildings. So by default, they would spawn on the ground or maybe a little bit above the ground floating, because that's the safe way. So nothing is in the ground. If you want to adjust that, you can tick this, you can check this and set the offset. So basically, if you feel like all your stuff is just too high up, you can go into the negative figures and select how many meters it should spawn lower or higher. Higher is positive, lower is negative. If that helps, untick it to disable. For this loot system and for the AI and player equipper, VA checks what mods you have active and categorizes items from the mods into arrays. The arrays are pistols, rifles, launchers, vests, backpacks, headgears, goggles, uniforms, and I think some more stuff. Weapon attachments for pistols and rifles. I probably have to extend that a little bit, but basically by default you can easily exclude all the vanilla content. I usually do that because I don't like vanilla content. So no Arma DLC or Arma vanilla pistols, rifles, launchers, vests, and so on will spawn. They'll be excluded from the VA loot table. You can manage Ravage content because I usually play with that. I usually turn off the rifles because although they're nice and made old, they're still too futuristic for me. For example, in this case here, I have Project Infinity weapons online. They will be captured by the array generator script I have and put it into pistol, rifle, and launcher options. Arrays lists. So the gear pool is dynamic based on your active mods, and you can in here also adjust it. This is especially needed to exclude Arma stuff, like original Arma stuff, or to exclude bits and pieces of equipment packs. So for example, in Iron Front Arma 3, I like the rifles and the pistols, most of the rifles, but I do not want the launchers, goggles, the uniforms, the helmets, and so on. So if I'd have IFA3 active, I would probably turn off the whole uniform bits, maybe the launchers, maybe even pistols, and just have the cool old World War II rifles. You know, from a fantasy perspective, you would rather have old military service weapons in your basement in a civilian place than high-end military gear, right? So I usually like to have that mod. Cup content, you have the option to exclude. Same again for cup. For example, you only want to use the backpacks, so all the rest you want to turn off, so exclude that. Then you also have the option to, let's say you want to use all the cup weapons, rifles, but maybe one or two rifles you just don't like or you think they're overpowered. You enter them here, just a class name. I don't know, cup, I think it's usually like this, rifle D, whatever. Just the class names and separated by commas. This will just remove it from the loot list, so it will never pop up. You might have to do that for IFA items. There are some really weird rifles there that you don't want to pop up. I hope that makes sense. There's also, it's not here in this menu, but in the system there is a replace items function where you basically can do the same, but instead of blacklist you replace arrays. So basically you can have custom arrays. So imagine it stands here like replace specific headgears, and then you just enter the name, the class names of the headgear that you want, and it will overwrite the array that you might have by default or set here. So I need to add a section for that, but that will basically allow you for customization of gear pool. Let's say you have cup and you only want very, very limited pieces to drop. You can enter 5 backpacks, 3 uniforms, 5 pistols, 2 rifles, and so on, and it will only spawn the ones that are named in that new to be done replacement function. I don't know if that made any sense for you, but you'll be able to create custom hand-typed arrays for the equipment pool. An array is a list of objects or names or whatever, in that case item pieces. I hope that made any sense at all for you. Okay, and then here, so what you did is basically you have your active equipment and gear mod and rifle, pistol, weapon mods online active, and you can further customize by excluding pieces of it, and I hope that makes sense somehow. I mean, I really like this for my own use. I think it's really cool to have a dynamic mod where your active mods are automatically taken into consideration and you do not always have to change everything just because you want to add new weapons. And for me, I mean, I do not play with Arma classic weapons. I really don't like it. So I always exclude that. Maybe here, if you do that, if you exclude pistols and rifles, make sure your alternative mods do have pistols. Some mods, for example, if I would just go with Ravage doesn't have ravaged pistols, just rifles. So if I do that only with Ravage, I will have no pistols and no rifles. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Good. Then you have further adjusted your gear pool, and now you have set the spawner, so stuff will spawn. This also applies to anything that spawns with AI and at the player and in points of interest, in sites, like in the loot chests, in bandit camps and so on. What you do here is the loot multiplier. It will basically allow you to decide how rare and not rare some item groups are. This applies for the looting for the building spawns only for now. I might change that if I can. But basically, if you have everything on 1, everything has the same chance to spawn. So if you have a loot position, it will randomly select one of those. If everything is on 1, then every piece has an equal chance to spawn, right? Now you don't want that, right? You want rifles to be rare, so you increase pistol chance to 4 times higher than rifles. So basically, there's a higher chance that a pistol is picked than a rifle is picked for loot spawn. If you want to disable something, I don't need launchers, so I put that to 0, so it's not considered when selecting a loot type, and so on. I mean, if you think flashlights are important because Ravage has really dark nights, put it up. Uniforms, usually you have more than enough uniforms from AI, so I usually keep that low, but maybe you want more backpacks to spawn, so turn that up. You want items is a custom, well, a hand put together list of Ravage and non-Ravage inventory items. I need to automate that, but basically if you play Ravage, it might spawn food or useful items like hoses and whatever, just inventory items that you can use. Medical items in this case are first aid kits, bandages, blood bags, antivirus pills, and so on. That's all in here. If you want the higher chance of that stuff, put it up. I will keep it low because of making the game hard. Then explosive and grenade multipliers. In the future, I want to add a military grade or a tiering system for areas or maybe events. So basically, certain areas will spawn military loot and non-military areas will just spawn sort of civilian or old weapon stuff to make various sites more interesting. Same for AI. I want a chance or a location-based trigger where basically some AI do not spawn as completely randomized bandits, but as an organized military unit. So that's in works, but I would like to do that. Good. The player, you. The player can be also has a couple of settings, the same settings as for the AI, where you can basically select item spawn chance. So if the player respawns and you use the VA respawn loadout, it will randomize a loadout for you, and you can adjust that. How high is the chance that you spawn with a map, with a radio, with a binoc, and so on, right? For testing, by the way, always put the map chance high because you want to see what's going on your map. Then, sorry, I just wanted to mention that because it's basically the same as for AI. Now, generally, you will have an option to disable stamina. There will be an option, I think, to set the weapon sway thingy, how much your weapon, shakes. But that it would be something similar. It's easy to do. I'm just thinking if I want to include that aspect into one of the survival systems. So maybe I add something that will decrease and increase your weapon sway depending on your condition. More to come on that. If you want to use the Ravage equipper on the player instead, take this. I think even if you take Ravage and random respawn, sorry, has nothing to do with each other. Confused. By default, if you click random respawn loadout, no, I was right, then it will spawn with VA gear. If you do not tick that, it will spawn with no gear. If you tick that, it will spawn with Ravage gear. And if you have both, I think it will still spawn with Ravage, will override it. So, but if you want to be sure just to spawn Ravage, click Ravage. I go for my own equipper. Random respawn is basically when you die or at mission start, depending on your mission settings, the system will search for a random position on the map where you spawn. Very simple. You can set the range. It's based on your position of death. So in the mission settings, It's maybe important. Go to settings. No, sorry, don't go to settings. Go to attributes, multiplier, and under respawn, select respawn on position of death and just turn anything off here because you don't need that. Maybe delay 5 seconds or whatever you want. Do not show scoreboard, that looks ugly, and allow manual respawn if you do want. This will just, whenever the player dies, he will respawn at the random position on the map. Okay, someone is really loud outside. That's scary. Okay. See, careful, don't be on the mission tab, be on the server tab. Why is my FPS so shit? That's weird. Oh yeah, of course, because I'm recording. Oh, that's scary. Maybe I make a safety copy. Just a second. Ooh.